Hey, good afternoon, Crime Crunchies. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I am your host, Courtney C., a 27-year veteran of the media and the host of Crime Crunchies. Again, so happy to have everybody here today. I have taken a few days off and regrouped and am ready to go today. I hope you are as well. We're going to be diving into part 6 of how I believe that the family has known this entire time exactly what happened to their mom, Nancy Guthrie. Okay, we're going to be walking through that again as an overview. Most of you may have checked out my other parts, so you are familiar, but I'm going to go through it again. But there's been one or two tidbits that happened this week that have actually continued in the path of what I'm thinking about with the family, knowing what happened to Nancy, or at least why somebody would have taken her. And, again, I'm keeping my mind open. There are a few things I'm going to talk about tonight with Annie and Tommaso, because while law enforcement, at least the sheriff, not the FBI, but the sheriff has come out and cleared the sister and the brother-in-law, I'm kind of keeping this little circle on the corner of my desk where I'm just letting it sit there. Okay. So I'm letting it sit there because while they've been cleared and I'm respecting that, and I'm not going to stir up drama, I'm not going to stir up rumors. I think that it still needs to sit there until this case is closed and or somebody has been detained, arrested, convicted. So I am going to leave, this is what I call my little sister and brother-in-law circle, that I'm just sitting in the corner of my desk, and I'm just going to kind of leave it there, and I look at it every so often and I think about it because my mind is open. I read all of your comments because the true crime community, you guys are logical thinkers. You are analytical. You get into the science. We sit around and think about this stuff. I sit around and think about this stuff, and I know for sure you guys are sitting around thinking about this stuff. And there are some amazing things that I've learned just from you all, okay? And one of them I've actually added to my timeline that I put together. So we're going to go through my little timeline again. And again, if you have watched my earlier parts, you know pretty much the theme. But again, there have been little bits and pieces this week that have popped up that are actually bolstering my theory, and we're going to discuss those tonight. So I'm going to share my little baby screen. And while I do that, if you have not, now is a great time to subscribe and like and share. And I love you all. It was just really busy this week with work. I had a lot of big projects and I've missed you guys. I wanted to go live yesterday, but I just could not. So I'm so happy to be here with you. Hello, everybody. All right, so we're going to go into a quick review. Again, what we're looking at right now is a Google document that I put together just so we can kind of go through the timeline. And again, these are my notes that is bolstering the theory that the family knows who took Nancy. And when I say they know who took Nancy, I don't believe they have a name, but I believe that there is somebody who has been in the background of Savannah's life for at least the last 6, 7, 8 months. This has been a slow burn, but I think that there's been somebody who's been buzzing around and communicating with her and sending messages, communicating, wanting her to do something, pay attention, etc., etc. And unfortunately, whatever it is that this person needed it has not been taken care of. Okay. So we're going to take a look at my timeline, and I've added a few notes. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And please jump in and and I'm open. I am a huge believer freedom of speech. I don't have moderators. As long as, you're not using foul language and YouTube will let the words go up, you guys can give me whatever theory you want, because everything's on the table. This is probably, I cannot let go of this case. This case is definitely one for at least the last 100 years. This is the most confusing case, and all the professionals, they can't figure it out. So I'm obsessed. Looks like Khloe Kardashian is obsessed. We're going to take a look at her little video as well. All right, so let's dig in. I know I've been yakking, and we're going to go in. So again, just a quick review. January 31st is the last time Nancy is seen alive at around 9:50 p.m. when she is dropped off at home by a family member and the garage door closes. Again, I'm not going to rumor mill. I'm going to deal with facts just out of respect for the family, because if they're not guilty, that's just adding salt to the wound. But again, I have my little circle and I'm putting it on the corner of the table, and I look at it. So February 1st, porch guy is seen at 2 a.m. We don't know how long he's in the house. We don't know who he is. He looks like a dingbat. One of the latest things I've seen about him this week is one of the latest theories on porch guy is somebody is wondering, because the car, okay, he's dropped off. There's a car there. He's either driving the car or has another driver. I'm on the fence now if there's more than one person. We could talk about that in a moment, but we know there's a car, okay? I was literally at this house a few weeks ago, and the first thing I said when I pulled up is, there's no way this is random. Anybody who's stood out there, any of these other YouTubers or reporters that stood out in front of her house and are still questioning whether this is random, I'm not sure what kind of problem-solving skills they have. There's no way this is random. No way. None of the things that I had surmised about the location being chosen by an organized network of, kidnappers, burglars, whatever, none of it jives. So we don't know how long porch guy's in the house. One of the theories that somebody came up with this week is when he goes and gets the flowers, because he's messing with the camera. We see his hands, it's in kind of a C. Then he goes, backs off the porch, he picks up the fauna, the flora, the shrubbery, and he breaks it and he folds it in half, and it's like he's trying to cover the camera with the foliage. So somebody is wondering if he's not trying to get rid of the camera so that he's not seen. Maybe he's getting rid of the camera, covering it, and then yanks it off later to hide the car. Because again, this person, while they seem much like a dingbat, whoever's driving this whole thing is sophisticated enough to know not what to do, just enough that they haven't gotten caught yet that we know of, okay? So somebody is now surmising that it could be that he bent the flowers or the leaves to try to cover the camera, only for the fact that maybe he knew he was going to be pulling a car up. All right, so we don't know how long he's in the house. We don't know if there's more than one person. That whole thing is still a mystery. The back doors were propped open, but again, I think that this could be just the henchman. In my theory, this could be a paid contributor by the mastermind, and I will continue along those lines. Church friends notify Annie that Nancy did not show up for the church stream the next morning at Sunday morning. Annie and T show up to the house and call the police. Now, this is where there's the delay. Annie spends the first hours with PCSD explaining why Nancy could not have walked off, but PCSD continues investigating as if it is a walk-off. This is something that we've learned later on in the investigation, is that there was a delay. Homicide did not come to the scene right away. It was not treated as such until later on. And I believe that there were a few triggers and levers and buttons that initiated it being changed to a homicide. One of my viewers actually related to me she is related to Tucson law enforcement that was a first responder that day, and he or she claims that Annie mentioned several times that the mother could have been kidnapped. And so if it's true, and this is, again, one of my viewers is related and she shared this in her comments, that if this is true, that Annie was aware that something was going on with Savannah behind the scenes. And this also props up my theory that the family knew that there was somebody who had been, I guess, I don't know if they're a obsessed fan or stalker, but somebody had been wanting something from Savannah, and maybe they were escalating in their demands, and maybe the tone was getting a little scary, but we don't know the relationship that Savannah has with Annie or Cam. So I wasn't sure if she would have shared that information with Annie. I do feel she would have shared it with Cam, just with his military and intelligence background. But apparently Annie knew. And again, if you go to a home, your mom is missing, the back door is open, there until they saw the blood on the front porch, the rest of the house looked impeccable. Okay, it looked perfect, like everything was just normal. Why would Annie immediately go to kidnap for ransom? Annie's only going to go to kidnap for ransom if they know that there's something going on in the background. And of course, Savannah is the famous one. So this just backs up, it bolsters. I'm going to use the word bolster today. It's the word of the day, bolster. It bolsters my theory that the family knows who took Nancy and why. Savannah did not do something that they wanted, whatever that is. Annie notifies Cam and Savannah. There's a little back and forth about how long and when and why there was a delay of Annie notifying Cam and Savannah, but she could have honestly just been in a panic and freaking out. That's another reason why I'm keeping them kind of in the corner of my desk, because I know my first instinct is I'm calling my sister immediately, even if she's out of state, because we talk to my mom every day and somebody may have talked to her. I'm calling my sister right away. So I'm still a little iffy on why it took supposedly even more than an hour or two for Annie to notify Cam and or Savannah. That just seems a little weird to me, and I'm putting it in my little corner cubby of my desk, because that one, and the whole going in the garage and the 2 minutes seems odd to me, that the garage door opens at 9:48 p.m. and closes 2 minutes later. It just seems really fast. I can't see Nancy moving that quickly. So then my next note here is after Cam and Savannah are notified, Cam is the first one to arrive to Annie's house. And a lot of this information I'm going over from what we learned in Savannah's interview with Hoda. You can see my total analysis of that interview in episode 4 on my channel. And I literally go almost sentence by sentence on that and give my feedback on the way she's talking, the way she's telling the story, and some things add up, some things don't add up with Savannah. I may do that one again just because I like doing analysis like that. And I could be wrong. I give everything, this is all my opinion. I could come back to you guys next week and have changed everything. It's because we're fluid. We're fluid. We are gathering facts. We're going to follow the facts. All right. So Cam is supposedly the first one to arrive to Annie's house. I've mentioned this a few times, and this is 100% true. I'm not going to give any more details than this because Cam is very private, and my friend has asked me not to get too specific, but they work with Cam. My friend trained with Cam late March and was respectful of Cam. Did not ask a lot of questions, although I'm chomping at the bit, like, okay, I need to know. but he was very respectful and was there really just to prop up Cam and just say, you're doing great, you're compartmentalizing, do what you have to do. But in their conversation, Cam 100% says this is all linked to Savannah. And I'm paraphrasing, but this is linked to Savannah. And there's no way at this point, being this far into this investigation, that Cam is not going to know something more than we do about what happened to his precious mother. Okay. And so just all of this plus going to the house, everything just kind of washed over me that morning. And I'm like, okay, I think I know what happened. I think that they know who did this. So Savannah arrives to Annie's house at around 2 a.m., but I've heard other people say that it was earlier. So my times on this, of course, are not accurate. Pencil them in. But she arrives very late at night. And she says in her interview with Hoda that she's on the phone with the sheriff. And my first thought is, having already heard that the law enforcement that responded was treating it as a walk-off, and knowing now how much, oh my goodness, we're just such fans of Sheriff Nanos, which I'm going to give a little update on our little gym rat later on. He can't lose his beauty sleep, you guys. He's got to get up and ride in that Corvette with the top down and get to the gym. That he needs his beauty sleep. But apparently she's on the phone at 2 a.m. During a lot of this, at some point, Savannah has called Senator Mark Kelly, who she is friends with. And my theory is that she has contacted Senator Mark Kelly because up until that point, regardless of what Annie has said, law enforcement is still treating the scene as not a crime scene, but as a walk-off. And Savannah knows that there's some guy that's been running around in the background. It's like, Mark, bud, I need your help. I need your help. They're not listening. And I need you to tell you confidentially, I have had this person reaching out to me. I need your help. And it's at that point that she somehow has made contact with the sheriff. And it is, again, the next day, day 2, that things have drastically changed. And I believe it was a Monday, because I woke up to an announcement, push notification that Savannah's mom was missing. And I even thought that. I'm like, okay, well, she's old. I've had extended family, old, like my brother-in-law's father was in his 90s and they lived in North Illinois, north of Chicago. And this poor guy, he ended up in Wisconsin and he didn't know where he was. It was terrifying. Okay. And that was the last time he drove, but I know that this happens. Okay. People still have driver's licenses. Apparently Nancy was still driving. Stuff happens, and yeah, she's got mobility issues, but some of the neighbors are saying that they would see her out walking her dog. So, and I know that the dog died quite some time ago, but I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of questions. And this is a good question, Joe. Is there someone else in the Guthrie family that we aren't talking about? And this is the thing, of course. And there's rumors that Nancy would get political. There's talk about Savannah's husband being some sort of a website scrubber, with the Clintons being under the microscope with some different things, and then the Epstein files. So all of that, absolutely. And I'm probably going to need to do some really deep research and cover how that could absolutely be an angle. But again, it still leads me to the place where somebody knows why this happened. It's definitely retaliation. I think definitely retaliation. I don't know if it's revenge. I think Savannah was married before, and that's a really good question. I need to figure that out for sure. Mike, if the ransom notes weren't real, how did the perpetrator that wrote the note know what clothing she was wearing? Well, they think that at least 2 of the notes were real. The ones that TMZ got, uh, they say that there's specific information in the notes, and I believe that they could take those notes and correlate them back to, I suspect, the video on the front porch, because we have Porch Guy, but that's only what's been released. Okay. And there's probably video that's very disturbing that they won't release because the polite society probably honestly couldn't handle it, because Savannah knows that her mother was taken from her bed and was taken against her will, begging. She used the words begging, and she was in her pajamas with no shoes on. And the only way that she's going to know that is if there's corroboration between something in the note and the scene and video. And supposedly from Harvey Levin, there is something in at least one of the notes that describes a placement in the house that only somebody who was there would know. So, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, there's so many little aspects to this that, we need to think about. That's why I say the math isn't mathing. The math doesn't math on this in any direction. Okay. So, first conversation between Savannah and Cam are, could it have been linked to Savannah? And of course, we know that Cam has said yes. That comes from the horse's mouth. Anything that's coming from the family in my episode 4, I'm really analyzing not just the words they're saying, but how they're saying it, how the words are coming out, how they're being strung together. And I believe that there are times when we can tell when Savannah is making stuff up just to fill air, or that she's been told not to talk about certain things in that Hoda interview. But I believe that there are certain times when she's being 100% truthful. And definitely one of those times I believe she's being truthful is when she's describing her poor mother being taken out in her pajamas with no shoes on and begging, because it is too much to bear. It's too much for anybody to bear. I can't bear it. And it's not my mom, it's just horrible. This sweet woman. Okay. So she calls Mark Kelly, and this is, how I'm envisioning that call going. Mark, bud, I need your help. I need these guys to listen to us, all of us. There's stuff going on, and whether it has to do with the Epstein, the Clintons, whatever it is, there's some connection, and somebody has been buzzing around in the background with Savannah enough to the point where I'm sure that they thought that maybe there was an escalating situation. Could there have been an escalating threat? And even if there was an escalating threat or situation, I would bet a lottery ticket that there's no one who would have ever thought that the retaliation would end in their beautiful mother being taken. There's just no universe where that even computes. Okay. So if people are going, well, why didn't she, and this is a lot of people, why didn't she have a subscription to cameras? Why didn't she have better security? That's a great question. It's not like Savannah couldn't pay for better security for her mother. I believe that a lot of what happened as far as how the household was set up is, Nancy living there for 50 years. When you get older, you get a little cantankerous. You're like, I don't want people telling me what to do. And again, I'm surmising here, but if somebody wanted to get Nancy, they were going to get Nancy. Okay. They could have turned off the alarm. This person did enough recon ahead of time. It's documented that he did recon ahead of time. I mean, they could have worked around a security system. And just because she had a subscription to cameras, it sounds like they have more video, luckily, that the FBI was able to get. And I don't know that it was going to prevent happening what actually ended up happening. But it's a real question. I again have to go back to, if I'm having an altercation with somebody and whatever it is, I'm not thinking that they're going to go after a family member. Okay. I'm sure that they didn't think that this was going to happen, or I know that they would have moved her. Okay. So again, my opinion. Savannah says she's on the phone with sheriff at 2 a.m. This could be staff filling in nanos with what has been happening in the background and previous conversations from a shakedown. February 2nd, PCSD begins treating the scene like a crime/homicide. And her first emotional public plea goes out. And the first thing she posts on Instagram is the please pray image. And so it isn't until really February 2nd. So January 31st is when this whole thing starts. February 1st, they're treating it like a walk-off, and things are starting to change. And then by February 2nd, it's when, okay, we're in the middle of a nightmare here. This is really bad. And I just want to remind everybody that I believe that it was the family and or Savannah talking with Senator Kelly / Sheriff Nanos, telling them, filling them in with what's going on behind the scenes, just again, because that crime scene, from what we know, there was nothing in the crime scene that was going to have them just look at everything and follow the evidence. There's nothing in the evidence to point to anything other than a walk-off. Okay. So it means that the family has helped change the direction of this investigation and has changed the focus. The family did that, not law enforcement. Okay. So we've got February 2nd, we've got some emotional pleas. We get the first video on February 4th of Savannah posting a direct message talking one-on-one to the kidnapper. And this is after the first note has been sent to TMZ. And again, apparently the playbook on kidnap for ransom is exactly the opposite of what has happened in this scenario. Kidnap to ransom playbook states we're low key, man. We're keeping it cool. All right. We're cool, dude. No one needs to know about this. I'm communicating with the family. Here's how you can communicate with me. Here's how you can send me the money. I'm going to return Nancy. She's doing Netflix and chill right now. We just ordered a pizza. We're cool, man. That's not what this was. The ransom note goes to the Tucson TV station and TMZ. This says so much about the kidnapper and or the mastermind. Okay. This says so much about this person's psyche. This is not somebody who is a regular kidnapper. I think this is something that they've not done before, clearly, because the stooge that either he is the stooge or the guy he hired that is the stooge screwed the whole thing up when there was a physical altercation at that front door, hence the blood. That altercation was not in the plan. That was not part of the plan. Nancy was supposed to be okay. They probably didn't think about the medicine. They probably didn't think about a few things that were going to put a wrench in the plans. Okay. That's why I don't think this is a regular kidnap person. This is somebody who put together a good enough plan that he's gotten really, really lucky to our knowledge. Okay. And I do believe that the FBI knows a heck of a lot more of what's going on. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Okay. So we've only been told, I believe, maybe if we're looking at like a pie chart, maybe 10% is what we know, and we're all just dissecting information because that's just what we do. It's how we ride, okay? All right, so we've got this direct message to Savannah. She's using specific language and using soft words, but she's talking to the kidnapper. She's saying things like, "We hear you," and I'm paraphrasing. You have our attention. We're willing to pay, and we want to talk to you. But with AI, we need to know that she really is alive. Okay, and I think that the FBI was dealing with whether or not they paid this ransom. And I think that was their biggest mistake, was not paying enough of the money in the first place to at least have gotten more information and communication back from this guy. I think that would have been helpful. But they were, asking the family not to. They were driving the car at that point. The FBI was telling them what to do. The negotiation people were telling them what to do and what not to do. And people are scammy. I mean, there's been scams already. So, woulda, coulda, shoulda, we don't know, but they didn't. I think it was a mistake, but we're looking back from Monday morning. So again, she's talking to the kidnapper, and she's saying things again that I think are in response to perhaps what the kidnapper had put in emails and maybe had been asking her for. And a lot of this has to do with attention. This person wanted attention. And if they were fixated on Savannah, maybe this was romantic feelings towards Savannah. She wasn't doing whatever it was to make the kidnapper happy with whatever. Okay. And a lot of this is attention. He wants attention. And this is a great question that we just don't know. Did Nancy open the door at that hour? We don't know. And that was one of the very first questions that morning that the sheriff was asked during like the only 2 or 3 pressers that he's done, is how did this guy access the house? And he says he's not releasing that information. We don't know. She could have opened the door. Let me see. I've got another. Now we are all concerned about a hair sample, and I will almost guarantee it will not match the porch perp because I don't believe he even entered the home, as his job was just to remove the camera. And I agree. We're all sitting because from what we know, there's just so little to go on. They don't have a suspect, and it's Glovegate. It could totally be a nothing burger. We have no idea if this hair is going to match anything or anyone. So, I mean, and law enforcement loves to put out red herrings in the media. They want us to go in the total wrong direction because whoever this creep is probably watching these shows. Apparently, Brian Koberger stalked chat groups on Facebook or Facebook pages that were dedicated to the Idaho 4. And he actually created another persona that they believe was him the whole time. He'd comment on things. And so it's very possible that whoever it has done this is watching these shows or participating in chat groups. And the FBI, they don't want this person to know that they're onto him. So if we can go in the opposite direction and mess with this guy and make him feel very safe, they want him to feel very safe. So we're probably helping the case because we're all just over here, again, probably going down wrong one-way streets. Okay. So again, we know she's communicating with this guy. He wants attention. A lot of this has to do with him getting attention. We get another video of Savannah on February 7th alongside her siblings saying, "We received your message and we understand. We will pay." February 9th, she's posted another public appeal, and she believes that Nancy's out there. And Posts are important because many profilers and commentators later argued they suggested the family was receiving some kind of communication. Investigators believe the offender was actively watching media coverage, and the offender may have had an emotional fixation on Savannah herself rather than purely financial motives. And I agree with that. So February 15th, and this is actually May 15th. We've heard in the last few days, Sheriff Nanos did a interview with People magazine, and he stated during this interview that he is not communicating with the family. The family is communicating with the FBI. And so what does that tell me? What does that tell all of us? All right. It tells me that it's very possible the FBI is running the task force, which I think we all are hoping at this point that they are. And if they're not talking to Nanos, I mean, there's a couple of reasons why the family may not want to talk to Nanos. One, he's a mess. Okay, this whole thing with his past career and the perjury from 1982, 1984. With El Paso, the drama with the no confidence vote, with the unions. I mean, he's just it personally, he is a mess. And the family maybe they feel like he hasn't helped this thing. He made a lot of decisions early on. Supposedly he blocked the FBI out for the first 4 days. He says, no, he didn't. But the FBI says, yes, he did. So it's he said, she said, but they just maybe they've lost respect for him and feel like they're not going to get a real solid answer from him. It feels like he has put his own ego ahead of the investigation. And I mean, I certainly don't think I would trust him personally. I would rather deal with the FBI. So it's hard to say, but the family is dealing with the FBI. But the other reason why I believe that bolsters my opinion that this is a long game shakedown from somebody in Savannah's background is the fact that they would be dealing with the FBI at that point. Okay. They would not be dealing with local law enforcement of a shakedown. And so hearing that this week, it still keeps me in my lane that the family, again, while they may not have a name of who did this, they know who did this, and they've known since the very beginning. And it's funny because, I mean, I'm really onto this theory. I'm invested in this theory. And so when I hear watch other shows and they're talking about other ways that this could happen, and I'm like, no, they know who did it. And we can't take for, gospel what we're hearing and, why things have happened and why things haven't happened. We're not going to be told why things happened, like Nancy opening the door. We're not going to be told that. There are certain things they're just not going to tell us. And again, I think that with or without the DNA of the person in the house, I strongly suspect that this is going to be probably a digital forensics dig in to find this person. And I think it's very highly likely that if there is a mastermind, that he wasn't in the house. And it isn't going to matter, other than the fact that if they get to the perp and he squeals for a deal, because they're going to want the mastermind. I mean, that's the only way that hair is going to help, in my opinion. And yes, this is true. He stated that they've known what happened since day one, and whatever that is, his theory has not changed. And when we talk about the family and why family members, I don't think that they're involved at this point. I think that it's it's too easy for them by day 106 or whatever day we're on now. Um, it's too easy for them to have gotten enough easy evidence, cell phone records, financial records, the car GPS. They would have enough information on the family to have at least detained somebody, and no one's ever been detained. Now, we've only been told that the family passed lie detector tests, but I don't know if they took any. I don't know if they passed any, it's hard to say. And Nanos may not know anything. Nanos may not know anything because honestly, I don't think the FBI is going to share anything with him. He has a problem of talking too much. He has really screwed up, how this thing was communicated, because there were things he was saying on the first presser that he probably shouldn't have and that he had to pull back from. I think that I think he talks too much, and I don't think that they're going to give him any information that he could blab. And honestly, at this point, we're gonna look at what happened with him, because the county supervisors met and did a vote this week. But there's some backlash that he still has to face potentially, and I think that there's a trustworthiness that they're not going to share. All right. So again, experts have publicly suggested Savannah was the real target. We know this, and a targeted abduction is definitely revenge or retaliation, fixation on celebrity, which this guy, maybe he wants to be famous. Fixation, parasocial obsession, or personal grievance involving the family. He definitely, I believe, wanted to hurt Savannah, which is more retaliation, in my opinion, than revenge. And he has hurt Savannah to her core. One expert reportedly said the kidnapping looked more like a message directed at the family than a traditional ransom crime. And I have to agree with that. That is significant because Nancy was elderly, had limited mobility, and was not a typical high-value kidnapping target by herself. And, in the very beginning, I thought this was a burglary gone wrong, but I could not understand, okay, if this is a burglary gone wrong and something happened to Nancy during the robbery, why take the body? I could never understand why would they take the body. And I really thought this was a burglary gone wrong. And I thought, well, maybe she had DNA under her fingernails, and she had enough, this guy's smart enough to know about DNA. He was gloved up. So, maybe they took her because she's a petri dish of their DNA, but it didn't make any sense. It's like insult to injury, taking her little baby body. The ransom communication behavior was extremely unusual. According to reporting, ransom-style messages were sent to media outlets like TMZ rather than directly and privately to the family. And Savannah has even stated they didn't get them directly. I don't know that she's seen the notes. I wish we could see the notes. And this is my big thing at this point. This is my cry. If law enforcement or FBI truly does not have a suspect, if they truly don't, I think by now they would have released the ransom notes that they think are real, because there is a way for people to see, like, writing and grammar cadence is the same type of fingerprint as watching someone walk away from that porch. How they stand, their stature, their walk, their limp, the hand that they use, just, there are people that if they know porch guy, that we expected somebody to say, yeah, I know who that is. Okay. But if the FBI did not have a suspect, I think they do. They're on to somebody. I think that if they really didn't, that they would have released at least portions of the ransom notes enough of the ransom notes so that we could see the words that were being used, the phrases, the spelling, because that is a fingerprint of sorts. The way people talk, how they write, if they use a phrase, somebody could go, that sounds like so and so. I've heard him say that, and that's kind of weird. Or look at how they spelled, ransom, and they used the letter X. The only person I know that puts a letter X in the word ransom is so and so. And so I also believe that if they did not have a suspect, that they would release more of the video. And I want them to release all of the ransom notes. I want them to release all of the video. Of course, unless there's something that's, really horrible that the family would not want us to see. But we need to see more of the video. Okay. We need to see as much of the video so we can see that guy walking around, and we need to see the ransom notes. And heck, they need to release the 911 call. Okay. Unless there's something in that 911 call that's going to hurt the investigation, which is the only reason why I could think that they haven't released that. People have FOIA'd that. People have FOIA'd, the ransom notes. I know that they FOIA'd the 911 call, and those things are supposed to be released, but the law enforcement department can, of course, say we're not releasing it because it's a live investigation. Okay. So just because they haven't released the ransom note, and I call for them to release it, but that tells me the fact that they haven't, that they have somebody that they're looking at, and they want to keep him calm, and they don't want people maybe spending too much time identifying this guy because they need to keep him calm, cool, and collected while they do their work, because they get one shot at getting this guy. Okay. They need to tighten up. They need to button up. They need to dot their I's and cross their T's. And I do think that if they did not have a suspect or a name or somebody that they're going after, I do think that by now they would have released portions of that ransom note that are safe. They would have released more video or still images. They would have done something to give the public more information. They would have come to us and said, we need your help. They haven't done that. February 10th is when they released that first video. Actually, the only video. February 10th. And then I think a few days later, the still image from January 11th of the guy coming and doing recon. They came to us and said, we need your help. If you've seen somebody like this, and they increased FBI increased their ransom from $25,000 to $100,000. And then, of course, afterward, the family, I said ransom, reward. Okay. The family increased it to 1.1 million. And so there's like 200,000, whatever. They increased the reward, and they came out with that video because at that time, I think that they needed our help. And I do believe if they didn't have somebody, they would have been dripping out more and more information, and they would have pressers and say, we need your help. They do it all the time. And so on day 106, if they don't have it, then if they haven't done that, then that tells me. Plus, apparently there's also a lot of software that the FBI has that could take Porch Guy and put him in color. Some people have done this, but I think that there's a way for them to get us some sort of a composite picture of him that would be pretty close. And they haven't even done that. So I think that they are on some sort of a path that I think they're just letting the media just go crazy. And I think we're helping them by going crazy with our theories and our guessing and all of our experts. So anyway, I think they've got enough that, and exactly, Joe, I think they could have enough that they haven't come back and asked us for more. They haven't given us more. And if they needed more, they would have given us more, because that writing is very, very important. All right, so I'm going to move on from that. This is kind of the whole thing here, but really the thing that I learned this week, most importantly, is that Sheriff Nanos is not communicating with the family, and they're communicating only with the FBI. And so this tells me, it's like, tell me that you're a doofus without telling me you're a doofus, Sheriff Nanos. And he's not running the show. He can act like he's running the show and flex his little muscles. He needs to just go retire, in my opinion. They might have a shared task force, but I do believe at this point that, FBI put out the images. I think the FBI is really running the show, and I hope they are. So the fact that he's not working with the family, to me, tells me again that this is all Savannah, and it's a stalker, someone obsessed, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go through that. There is a video that I thought we could watch for a few minutes, because we did have the county supervisors had a vote this week after asking Sheriff Nanos for a sworn statement about perjury and things that happened when he was with El Paso. Let me get this up here. Okay. And I'm going to play this video, and it's just going to be them talking about the supervisors. But even though the supervisors have voted against removing him, there's still some comeuppance for our beautiful, chiseled Sheriff Nano. So let's take a listen. And we have...
How far will your play go?
Tonight, the Pima County Board of Supervisors decided not to take action against Sheriff Chris Nanos.
The board initially considered the idea of vacating Nanos' position following concerns surrounding his work history, management of PCSD, as well as other personnel and financial issues. 13 News reporter Raya Torres is joining us live from downtown Tucson, where the Pima County Board of Supervisors meeting was held this evening.
And Raya, how did that vote go?
Well, Mary, Dan, as you mentioned, 4-0 was the vote, with one person abstaining. There was initially a motion to vacate Sheriff Nanos from his position by Supervisor Christie, but that motion quickly failed with no one else backing it up. But the second motion to not take action against Sheriff Nanos did pass, but many of the supervisors say that Sheriff Nanos still has some work to do in order to rebuild trust and confidence in the Pima County Sheriff's Department.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
The Pima County Board of Supervisors have decided not to take any action in removing Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos from office. They discussed a report regarding concerns about Sheriff Nanos and considered his responses to questions about his past. We have a complete breakdown of those concerns and Nanos' responses on our website. The motion not to take action passed 4-0, with Supervisor Steve Christie abstaining. Despite the vote, some supervisors shared their concerns about Sheriff Nanos' leadership and called on him to improve relations within the Sheriff's Department.
Leadership from our sheriff is so incredibly important. And I hope that what we see in the path ahead is true leadership that looks out for the interests of the full team.
He needs to take not just the first step, but the second step, the third step, the fourth step, the fifth step, to try and bring up the level of climate within that department.
While the board is not taking any action against Nanos, the sheriff told me over the phone after the motion that he agrees with some of the supervisors' comments.
It is my responsibility to find a way to get my team to work better, to work in a cohesive way, and to help with that division that exists there. And that's what we'll work for.
Nanos says he plans to connect with the Pima County Deputies Organization to address that many of his employees have low confidence in him.
We're there to solve problems. And it's hard to solve problems if I can't solve problems within my own organization. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'll be working.
We also received a statement from the Pima County Sheriff's Department that says, quote, Sheriff Chris Nanos was elected to lead the Pima County Sheriff's Department and focus on public safety in our community, and that remains his priority. Sheriff Nanos has heard Supervisor Scott's concerns and agrees that if there are issues within the agency, it is his responsibility to address them. He plans to meet with union leadership to discuss concerns and determine a constructive path forward. This decision also entails the Board of Supervisors forwarding any allegations of perjury to the Arizona Attorney General's office. Reporting live in downtown Tucson, Raya Torres, 13.
Okay, and I think it's very interesting that out of the entire 3 minutes of that segment, that it was literally the last 2 seconds that this reporter even mentioned that while the county supervisors did not vote him out, that they are referring him to the Attorney General for perjury. And they're asking the Attorney General office to investigate him. So a couple things about this, because the sheriff is an egomaniac. I mean, just look how his stance is. He has run on power unchecked for a very, very long time. And nothing was going to change the way he works with people. And he retaliated against his own folks. He would, demote them and make their lives hell, blah, blah, blah. But maybe this whole process, maybe it's done some sort of a check on him. Maybe this scared him a little bit because he's been able to run ramshod. He's been the big kahuna, okay? The big man on campus. And so maybe he felt like, wow, maybe he felt relief when they, voted to keep him in office. And hey, honestly, everybody deserves a second chance. I don't think that this is going to affect his core personality. I think he's got a personality disorder of sorts. Okay. I think that there's something a little off with him, but who knows? Maybe this will help him. Maybe he will reach across to, Aaron Cross and work with them, and maybe things will improve. I doubt it. I think he's like almost 70, isn't he? Isn't he like almost 70? I think he needs to just retire. And the Attorney General is going to investigate this, and he still could get in trouble. I mean, clearly there has been perjury. Let me get this. I think I've got, if I can find it. I thought I'd pulled up a story with, I'm not going to go through it. I'm not going to spend any more time on him is what I think I'm going to do. So we're going to move on from him. And let's just hope that maybe he is grateful that they voted the way that they did, and maybe he can take a look at himself and do some personal growth. That's all we could ask for. Says, we'll see. All right, so let me see. I'm going through my little thingy. There is an article about a squatter living in Nancy's house. It's unproven, and I think that that's too easy. There would have been a ton of DNA, so I'm not going to share that one. Khloe Kardashian. This is very, very short, and I'll share this. But apparently, Khloe Kardashian has been following this whole thing, and she had Ashley Flowers from Crime Junkie on her podcast. And I thought, well, we'll just see what she has to say. And I don't know if she can help in any way, but I thought I would play this just for funsies. This is just kind of a soft segment. So let's see what they have to say.
Constantly drawing me to these. And I think in like the solved cases, we have a saying, Crime Junkies, that like we're not paranoid, we're pro-paranoid. Like I wanted to look for all of the things that, like, if I were ever in this situation, what would I do? What led up to this? What do I look out for in a relationship? Like, what are the red flags? So in a lot of the solved cases, I feel like what we find is education, preservation. And then in the unsolved cases, I mean, my dream was to like be a detective. I'm like, sure, if like I can get the right case file, if I can talk to the right person, like surely I can solve the mystery. And I think our brains like love a mystery. I don't think it manifests as true crime maybe for everyone, but like we look for order where there isn't any. And I mean, like it's like missing person cases. I'm obsessed with like, how is someone here 1 second, gone the next?
Nancy Guthrie. I mean, is that not
What do you think?
heartbreaking?
I mean, who knew?
I don't know. I'm just like, this is 2026. There is nothing like we don't, it's
I can't
mind-blowing.
even believe that, but I'm also like very conspiratorial. So
Me too.
Wow.
I don't know if I know enough about this case, but like all the things I was reading about the brother-in-law and that kind of stuff, I'm like, oh.
We did a whole like episode in our fan club where I was like, you guys, there's like weird stuff happening in the background.
The ransom notes going to all the media outlets
TMZ,
first.
I know.
How weird was that?
I know.
It's so much. And I can't understand that in 2026, there's not, like you said, I don't believe that there's not one piece of information. They're not telling us.
Which is like so common with law enforcement, right? As we work with so many families, like we're not just telling these stories, we're working with law enforcement, we're working with families. And it is wild how they like are going through the most like traumatic experience of their life. There's no resolution. There's this person who they love who's out there in the world missing or murdered. And they're expected to just like, you have to pay the bills. You have a contract. You have to go back to work. And the world just like keeps moving, even though yours has like completely stopped. And it's so odd.
It's also how people feel like the anger towards the world when someone passes away close to them. And it's the acknowledgement that they're like, oh, the world just still, everything still goes on. I'm like, it does. It sucks.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's very interesting. And I agree. Let me go up here. And it's interesting that Khloe Kardashian, I'm not a Kardashian fan at all, but and it's interesting that, again, and like I said, I'm not starting rumors. I'm not interested in that. I want to stick with, as many facts as that make sense, but we still have to look at the family. And one of the things that really surprised me is Jennifer Coffindaffer, who is a retired FBI person. She has, I like listening to her, but she's usually on opposite ends. Like, hold on. Whoopsie, hold on. Kitty. Are you guys still there? This is Zosha. Sorry. This is Zosha, the crime fighting kitty. She just jumped up here. Okay. Everything's okay. Okay. So where was I now? Okay. So Jennifer Coffindaffer, we're on opposite sides. If anyone in here, and let me know if you guys followed the Karen Reed saga, okay, which is still going on, okay, and I was completely obsessed watching that whole trial thing. I could not get enough. I had court TV going on over here, and there were days I was just like, do I have to really work? I just want to watch Karen Reed, the Karen Reed show. But Jennifer Coffindaffer, I think Karen Reed is innocent. I don't think that there's enough evidence to show that she did anything to John. Oh my gosh, O'Keefe. Okay. And there's a lot of people who think that she did have something to do with, and Jennifer Coffindaffer is convinced that Karen Reed did end up killing John O'Keefe. Okay. And I just don't see how that's possible, that someone who's ex-FBI, that is that intelligent can look at everything and not and think that she really did do it, and not think that there's some sort of a conspiracy with the family. Okay. But even Jennifer Coffindaffer has been talking lately a little bit about the sister and the brother-in-law. And so let me share my screen, and I'll share some of the things that she's got going on. So, oh geez. All right, retired FBI agent explains why Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni are staying out of sight. And of course, apparently the neighbor has said that the neighbors have mentioned that they haven't seen Annie and Tommaso in over a week. Okay, well, they could be going on vacation. I mean, there's many reasons why people may not have seen them. I suspect that they may not feel safe in their home. I mean, let's think about this. Remember, the family was moving around during that month or so that all the family was at Annie's house. The family was moving around. I don't think so much because the media was encroaching, which it was, but this person could have been blending in, and everybody was going between Nancy's house and Annie's house. Okay, so they may not feel safe in their home. And Jennifer Coffindaffer is even asking, why are they laying low? She's wondering, saying that she thinks it's due to obvious concern over ridicule. She went on to give additional reasons why Annie and Cioni might be staying quiet. She says, and I agree with this, defamation suits in most states, including Arizona, one has to prove that a falsehood was made, such as being accused of a crime, and that the persons suffered damage. Coffindaffer continued before listing off said damages. She also pointed out that a lot of people still suspect that Annie and Cioni have something to do with Nancy's disappearance. Many people have been critical of the couple, especially Tommaso, who hasn't spoken out at all since Nancy went missing. Okay. Both Annie and her husband were cleared in the case by Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos, although of course the FBI has not and will not come out. They've not cleared him or them or the family, but they probably aren't going to until this case is over. They probably aren't going to say anything publicly. Nancy was last seen by her daughter and son-in-law. So even Nancy or even Jennifer Coffindaffer is talking about how, people are talking about Annie and Tommaso and thinking that things are weird. And it is weird. It felt weird that they didn't come out and say something. It felt weird that they weren't helping look for their mother. Okay. It felt weird until I thought along the lines that if this is a stalker of Savannah, that they're not going to want to be out because this person can blend in. And if they took Nancy, then there very well could have been a credible threat to them. We don't know what was in the ransom notes. Okay. And if I think that there's a threat against me or my family and they know where we live, I'm not going to probably be out, stumping the pavement. The school season is almost over. And Jennifer commented that she said that she personally checked the Basis Oro Valley School where Tommaso teaches 6th grade biology. I do not see his name listed as a teacher, but perhaps he's taken leave or perhaps the school is concerned. And I think that makes a lot of sense. It's near the end of the school year. Maybe he's taking time off, but that made me wonder, okay, so I jumped on Basis Oro Valley and I wanted to see, what I could find out. And the site, first of all, unless this is something that they changed, they only list the department heads. They don't have a list of faculty. And I went through the site. So Jennifer Coffindaffer was making it sound like Tommaso had been listed on the site, but he wasn't anymore. So I don't know if she had looked before, but when I go through the website, the only people I see are directors. I have not been able to find any faculty. Okay. I thought, all right, well, let me look at the jobs and see if there are any jobs that are available. And if I go in and I look at Arizona, Oro Valley. There is a science teacher, 5th grade. So does this mean that maybe he's leaving and that the 5th grade science teacher, which is biology considered science? I think it is. If I remember, it's been a long time since I've been in school. Let me know if you think that biology could be listed as science. But they have a 5th grade teacher position open. Did the 5th grade teacher go to 6th grade? And now they have a 5th grade opening. So I don't know. And does it really matter if does it matter if he quit? Does that speak to whether or not they were whether he's involved, or that he's just he's a ticking time bomb kind of a thing? And I also looked at compensation, because I'm like, well, let's just see. I came across it. They offered it, and an average salary of all teachers employed in budget year 2026 averages $53,200. If they're in, that's not a lot of money, and that's on average. And of course, he can make more than that, but that's not a lot of money considering the home that they live in is, I consider a $500,000 house, $700,000. That's an expensive house. So, again, I'm not going down rabbit holes here, but that's why like I said, I'm just keeping them on the corner of my desk, and I just look at them every so often. And, do I think it's weird that the neighbors haven't seen them? No, they could have taken they deserve a vacation. Do I think it's weird that he's not listed on the website? If they listed faculty and they've removed faculty, I can understand why they would want to remove him, especially if there's a threat. Okay, again, we don't know what's going on. If there is a safety threat that's happening, then, oopsie, you guys, hold on. I wasn't sharing the right screen, you guys. I'm so sorry. I have to remember to do. I'm so sorry, everybody. Tell me sooner if the screen isn't changing. I'm so sorry. So here's the website. I could not find any faculty. The salary I found, there's a job opening for science teacher 5th grade. So that makes me wonder if the 5th grade teacher went to 6th grade. I can obviously respect if they need a vacation. This has been very taxing. Maybe there's a lull in the investigation, and now's a good time for them to go, take some time away with the kid. It's, summer break is coming up. So I don't think it's weird that they've not been seen. Do I think it's weird that they haven't come out and said anything at all? Yeah. But at the same time, they might be just really private people. Not everybody wants to be, in front of the camera. It seemed like Annie was happy to let Savannah's her younger sister. She was happy to let her little sister, kind of be on TV. Annie didn't really say anything during that segment where they were at the restaurant. Savannah's back at work. Cam is back at work. I don't know enough about what Annie's doing to know if she's back at work. Is there a reason if everybody's back at work, but the brother-in-law is not back at work? Does that say something? I don't know. I can say that, like Chris McDonough on The Interview Room, pretty much every show he's got on Nancy Guthrie, he sneaks back toward, he keeps bringing the family up. And I've stayed away from it again because I don't want to get sued. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I want to be respectful. I don't want to add salt to the wound. But CrimeCon is coming up. They're going to be at CrimeCon. I'm going to be at CrimeCon. I want to talk to Chris. He has so much experience, and I want to ask him, he's never going to come out and just say that he thinks it's the family, okay? But he keeps going down that path, and there's got to be a reason. He's also been very vocal about why did they keep Annie's car for like 48 days? They kept her car longer than they kept anyone else's vehicle. And he's convinced there's something there. So again, that's another reason why I haven't taken it off the table, because there's enough buzz going on. You know, I'm not going to push it, but it's like the elephant in the room. So I just wanted to mention those few things. Okay. Now, when I went to Google and I looked for faculty, let me see if I can change my screen and show you this. So when I go to Google, AI scraped the website, AI overview. So what AI does is, instead of going into the website, AI has these bots that scrape the internet and websites, and it pulls information off websites, and it gives you this overview. So this information that we see here on the first page under the overview is stuff that was scraped from the website previously. And the fact that he's listed down here notable teaching staff, and all I did was search list of teachers for Basis Oro Valley AZ. I didn't put his name in, but the fact that he is coming up as a teacher tells me that at some point, faculty was listed on the website. Okay, because that's what AI does, is they have bots. The bots go out and they scrape the internet. And this is an older version of the website that was scraped previously. So while I cannot find a list of faculty, I found the head of the school. I found these folks: head of school, head of operations, director of student affairs. I found these people, but I did not find the faculty. So, you know, if they're not listed right now, why are they not listing it? And that leads me to believe that he hasn't been let go potentially. I think that maybe just for safety's sake, they removed the faculty, because the last thing the school wants is for media to show up at the school and camp out front with these students. It's not safe. Right, Karen? I love the interview room. I love Dr. Gary Brucato. I learned so much from them. And the fact that Chris McDonough has not let this go is another reason why I'm just keeping that whole subject just kind of on the corner of my desk. I've not put it in the garbage yet. It's there, and I just keep an eye on it every so often. And yes, I did hear about ICACs at Annie's. Yes. And they spent 3 hours with the lights off taking pictures. And I was thinking about this just earlier today. Okay. If they've got a forensics team in at nighttime, like they did, and we know they were there because we saw the flash going off, and they spend 3 hours doing luminol and taking a look at rooms. I mean, does that mean, I'm trying to think, what does that mean? So if they're doing luminol all over the house, in the garage or wherever they were doing it, if they're not finding anything, would they have still spent 3 hours there? If they found something, would that mean they spent 3 hours? If they hadn't found anything, would they have spent maybe an hour? Okay, that's what I was thinking about earlier today. So, and yeah, I don't know if they had ICACs there just because, and for anyone, I don't know what it stands for, but basically it's for like CSAM, it's for children, protection, internet, digital stuff. Okay, I'm not going to go into any more. You guys can figure it out. And I don't know. And so that's another piece. I don't know. I do think that Savannah is a trusting person. Is she naive? Possible. If she trusts her brother-in-law, you know, is she a good enough judge of character that she's going to know that he truly is good? I hope that's the case. But could he have, you know, if he's making $53,000 a year on average at the school, could there be a money issue? I don't know. So I thought that was very interesting. So anyway, all right, let me take a look at this. I think we're kind of getting down. It's been an hour, 20 minutes. I know people probably need to get going. I'm just looking. Yes, prayers for justice soon, cat lady. I have kitties, and I'm redoing my store. I wasn't happy with my t-shirts. I'm not a big sales person, but I didn't like my store before, and stuff's just too expensive. But I did I'm working on a new store. It's not linked yet, but I've got Zosha the crime fighting kitty t-shirts, and these are cheaper t-shirts. These are $16 t-shirts. So it hasn't linked yet. I'm still going to be connecting it, but I've got a Crime Crunchy t-shirt. It's crunch time, and I've got my Zosha the crime fighting kitty t-shirt. And cat lady. Oh, here's Zosha right here. Here she is. She likes to jump up on my desk. She's sneaky. She gets outside the house. I have a lot of cats, but she's Zosha the crime fighting kitty. So I have a new store coming soon. I thought I would just mention that for fun. Could the porch guy be someone that came in and out of the country? Absolutely. And they're only about an hour from the border. So absolutely. And there's been a lot of buzz that Nancy was taken. Here we go. That Nancy was taken across the border. You know, some of these notes are stating that she was taken down to Mexico, and at some point somebody knew where she was. And, you know, I think the family is just hoping to do that reward so that they just want her remains back. They really just want, they want closure, which it's never going to be closure. They're never going to have closure. But if in a perfect world at this point, they know she's gone, they really just want her remains back. I don't think they even care, as long as they're safe and there isn't an imposing threat. I mean, I don't know that they really want to see somebody, you know, get the death penalty or life in jail. I think they just want their mother's body back and for everybody to be safe. I live in the country, and we've got so many cats, and I feed them too. So I like that, cat lady. All right. Well, that's kind of what I have today. I'm still, you know, looking and listening, and I have my eyes open for anything going on. There are other stories that are in the news, and I probably going to have to start covering some of those. My heart is still with this, but you know, there's just not that much content out there right now. And when I come on live, I want to make sure I've got stuff that's important to share. So there's other stuff going on in the news. We've had some big things. So I might do kind of a compilation show later this week. It's Crunch Time compilation show. But I really appreciate you guys coming and spending some time with me today. Please remember to subscribe. I appreciate all your comments. Keep commenting. I read them all. But I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And until the next time, I will catch you on the flip side. Toodaloo.